The humans' footprints were upside down, on the ceiling, in vacuum. I stared at the forensic display until my tertiary eyes began to water. 3 cycles of analysis, 4 independent sensor sweeps, and 17 increasingly desperate recalibrations later, the evidence remained stubbornly impossible. Captain Marcus Webb had somehow walked across the interior hull of battlecruiser Vengeance, while it tumbled through the void with life support offline. "Explain this to me again. Investigator Krix." Admiral Thane's voice carried that particular tone that made junior officers contemplate career changes. "Because right now, I'm looking at boot impressions that suggest one of our human allies defied approximately 12 different laws of physics." I flexed my sensory tendrils nervously. "Sir, the timestamps are confirmed. The ship lost atmosphere at 0347 hours. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically. At 0352 hours, these prints appeared on the ceiling of Section 7, directly above the auxiliary power core." Appeared, Thane's orange carapace darkened to deep amber. Never a good sign. "Are you suggesting they materialized spontaneously?" "No, sir. They were made by standard human military boots, size 11, with the distinctive tread pattern of Terra Defense Force issue." I paused, checking my notes again because surely I'd misread something. The pressure signatures indicate the human was moving at approximately 4 meters per second. While inverted, in 0 atmosphere, the Admiral's mandibles clicked in what I'd learned was the Zirek equivalent of a headache. "And our missing Captain Webb?" "Still missing, sir, along with his entire strike team." I gestured to the holographic reconstruction floating between us. The last confirmed sighting was here, in the main corridor, pursuing the hegemony boarding party. Then the explosion, the hull breach, and I indicated the impossible ceiling prints. "This. Show me the security footage." I'd been dreading this moment. "Sir, that's problematic." Thane's 4 arms crossed simultaneously, a gesture I'd learned meant someone was about to have a very bad day. "Problematic how?" The cameras recorded everything perfectly until 0351 hours. Then we get 30 seconds of what our technicians are calling aggressive visual static. When the feed clears, we see the aftermath. No humans, no hegemony forces, just those prints and... I hesitated. "And a message, sir, burned into the bulkhead with what appears to be a plasma cutter. It reads, 'Gone fishing. Back in 5 minutes. P.S. Check the ceiling.' It's signed with a small drawing of a fish." The silence stretched so long, I began to wonder if the Admiral had entered some kind of protective hibernation state. Finally, his voice emerged as a barely controlled whisper. "A fish? Yes, sir. Quite detailed, actually. Our xenobiologist identified it as a Terra salmon, though the scale seems somewhat exaggerated for artistic effect." Investor Krix, are you telling me that in the middle of the largest space battle in galactic history, with hegemony forces attempting to board our flagship, Captain Webb stopped to leave us a note about recreational fishing? The evidence would suggest that, yes. Thane's secondary arms began the rapid gesturing that indicated either deep thought or an impending nervous breakdown. "What about the hegemony boarding party? 12 of their best shock troops, armed with quantum disruptors and personal shields." I consulted my tablet, though I'd memorized every detail. "Gone, sir, completely. No bodies, no equipment, no trace signatures. It's as if they simply vanished." "Along with Webb and his team?" "Correct. Though in the case of the humans we do have the boot prints. And the fish message." The Admiral stood and began pacing, his heavy footsteps echoing in the investigation chamber. "Let me understand this sequence of events. Our human allies board the enemy vessel. Hegemony forces counterboard our ship. Explosion occurs, causing hull breach and atmosphere loss. Then, somehow, our humans walk on the ceiling in vacuum and leave decorative aquatic artwork, while making an entire enemy boarding party disappear." "That appears to be the situation, yes, sir. And you have verified the atmospheric readings?" Triple check. The section was in hard vacuum for 17 minutes before emergency life support restored basic atmosphere. No organism should have survived, let alone been capable of locomotion. Thane paused his pacing. What do the humans say about this? I'd been hoping he wouldn't ask. Sir, I have filed 14 separate requests for human technical advisors to explain their species' capabilities. The responses have been unhelpful. Unhelpful how? The first response was simply, humans gun, human. The second was, have you tried turning it off and on again? The third was a recipe for something called beer-battered fish tacos, with a note that Captain Webb would appreciate the humor. The Admiral's orange carapace was now shifting through colors I'd never seen before. They are not taking this seriously. Oh no, sir. They are definitely taking it seriously. The fourth response included a formal request for hazard pay for any crew members assigned to work with humans in physics-optional environments. The fifth was a technical manual titled Basic Human Maintenance and Troubleshoot that appears to be mostly jokes about caffeine dependency. And the others? Increasingly creative ways to say we don't know how they do it either, but we have stopped asking questions. Thane collapsed into his command chair with a sound like settling rocks. Investigator Krix, in your professional opinion, what happened here? I looked at the evidence again. The impossible footprints, the cheerful fish drawing, the complete absence of any logical explanation. Sir, I believe the humans did something humans do, which is something impossible until they do it, at which point it becomes just another Tuesday. The Admiral's laughter had a slightly hysterical edge. 30 years of xenobiology training, 40 years of military service, and I'm reduced to accepting humans go to human as a valid explanation for physical impossibilities. If it helps, sir, I have reviewed the historical records. Humans have been doing things that violate known physics for centuries. They call it plot armor or main character syndrome. Our scientific advisors classify it as aggressive reality negotiation, and we are allied with these beings. Yes, sir, it was considered preferable to being on the opposing side. A new alarm chimed, indicating incoming priority communications. Thane activated the display with visible reluctance. What now? The face of Captain Sarah Mitchell appeared, her human features showing what I'd learned to recognize as barely contained amusement. Admiral Thane, we have located Captain Webb and his team. Where? Thane's voice carried desperate hope. They are currently aboard the Hegemony flagship, approximately 2 light hours from here. They appear to have appropriated it. The silence that followed was broken only by the gentle hum of life support systems. Finally, Thane managed, appropriate. Sir, they have painted property of Earth Defense Force on the hull in letters approximately 50 meters high. They are also requesting permission to keep it as a war trophy. I watched the Admiral's carapace cycle through what I was certain was the entire visible spectrum. How did they get aboard an enemy vessel 2 light hours away? Captain Mitchell's grin widened. They said they walked. Sir, they are also asking if we want them to bring back any souvenirs. Captain Webb specifically mentions something about alien fish for the ship's aquarium. They walked 2 light hours. Through space. That's their story, sir. Oh, and they say the bootprints on the ceiling were just Webb checking to make sure the artificial gravity was properly calibrated before they left. Thane turned to me with an expression I couldn't quite interpret. Investigator Krix, I'm promoting you to senior investigator and assigning you permanently to human-related incidents. Sir, I'm not sure I'm qualified for. Nobody is qualified for this, Thane. Interrupt. But you are the only one who's maintained any semblance of sanity while investigating the impossible. Consider it a combat assignment. The communication channel crackled again as Captain Webb's voice joined the conversation. Admiral, this is Webb. We have secured the enemy vessel and are prepared to return. Just need to pick up a few things from the gift shop. Captain Webb, Thane's voice was carefully controlled. There is no gift shop on a Hegemony warship. There is now, sir. The prisoners were surprisingly cooperative about setting up a small merchant exchange. Turns out they are quite artistic when properly motivated. I looked at the evidence again, the impossible footprints, the fish drawing, The complete absence of any dead enemies. Sir, permission to ask Captain Webb a question. Granted. I'm beyond caring about proper protocol at this point. I activated the communication link. Captain Webb, this is Investigator Krix. Sir, how did you walk on the ceiling in vacuum? Webb's laughter carried clearly through the speakers. Investigator, you are asking the wrong question. What should I be asking? You should be asking why the ceiling let me walk on it. The connection paused. Some things know better than to argue with a human who's having a bad day. The communication ended, leaving us in silence. I stared at the evidence display, the impossible footprints, the cheerful fish drawing, the complete absence of logical explanation. Sir, I said carefully, I think I need to revise my report. Oh? The bootprints aren't evidence of humans violating physics. They are evidence of physics being very, very polite. Admiral Thane's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or surrender. Senior Investigator Krix, I think you are going to fit in perfectly with human-related incidents. I looked at the impossible footprints one more time. Upside down on the ceiling, in vacuum, with a cheerful fish drawing nearby. Somewhere in the distance, alarms were sounding as the appropriated hegemony flagship approached our position. Just another Tuesday, as the humans would say. The real question wasn't how they'd done it. The real question was what they'd do next. And based on the evidence, I was fairly certain it would involve fish, impossible physics, and a complete disregard for what the rest of the universe considered reasonable behavior. I started typing my report, Senior Investigator Krix, Human Incident Division. It had a nice ring to it, even if I wasn't entirely sure what I was investigating anymore. The hegemony flagship arrived exactly 7 minutes later, painted in cheerful yellow and blue stripes, with Property of Earth Defense Force blazoned across its hull in letters that could probably be seen from 3-star systems away. What had once been the most feared dreadnought in the galaxy now looked like someone's overly enthusiastic art project. Sir, I reported to Admiral Thane, who was staring at the incoming vessel with the expression of someone whose reality had finally given up entirely. Captain Webb is requesting permission to dock. He says he's brought presents. The Admiral's voice had achieved that perfect monotone that suggested either complete calm or total psychological breakdown. From a military operation. Yes, he specifically mentioned 12 very apologetic prisoners, 1 slightly used enemy flagship, and a collection of artisanal crafts that would make excellent gifts for the Home Office. The docking bay's massive doors cycled open with their usual mechanical precision, though I noticed the technicians were all wearing what humans called blast shields and maintaining what they termed a healthy distance. Experience had taught us that human arrivals were best observed from behind reinforced barriers. Captain Webb strode down the ramp of the captured vessel with the confident swagger of someone who had apparently convinced an entire enemy crew to redecorate their ship in his honor. Behind him walked his strike team of 6 humans, each carrying what appeared to be shopping bags. Admiral Webb's voice carried across the bay with inappropriate cheer. Mission accomplished. Enemy vessels secured, hostile forces neutralized, and I managed to pick up some lovely souvenirs for the crew. I watched through the observation window as Webb approached, noting that his boots were indeed size 11, with the distinctive tread pattern that had somehow violated several fundamental laws of physics. He looked remarkably cheerful for someone who had recently done the impossible. Captain Webb, Admiral Thane's voice carried through the communication system, report to the briefing room immediately. And bring, he paused, visibly searching for words. Your souvenirs. Copy that, sir. Oh, and Admiral, you might want to have the medical team standing by. The prisoners are a bit confused about what happened, and they keep asking if we are actually wizards. 20 minutes later, I found myself in a briefing room that looked like a collision between a military debriefing and a craft fair. The table was covered with what appeared to be hand-carved wooden sculptures, metalwork that resembled abstract art, and several items I couldn't identify but which seemed to glow softly in the ambient light. So, Captain Webb began, settling into his chair with the casual air of someone discussing the weather. I suppose you want to know what happened. That would be helpful, Admiral Thane replied, his orange carapace now a shade I'd never seen before, somewhere between resignation and fascination. Starting with how you walked on the ceiling in vacuum. Webb grinned. Oh, well, it's actually pretty simple once you understand the basic principles. I leaned forward, tablet ready. Finally, an explanation that might make sense of the impossible evidence. You see, Webb continued, when the explosion happened and we lost atmosphere, I realized we had about 30 seconds before the hegemony boarding party would breach the auxiliary power core. Now they were expecting us to take cover, maybe retreat to a more defensible position. Reasonable tactical assumptions, Thane agreed. Exactly. So I did the unreasonable thing instead. Webb's smile widened. I walked on the ceiling. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the ship's air recyclers humming 3 decks away. That's not an explanation, I said carefully. That's just a restatement of the impossible thing you did. Is it, though? Webb leaned back in his chair. See, the thing about humans is, we don't really believe in impossible. We believe in hasn't been done yet, and needs more creative thinking. And hold my beer and watch this. Captain. Admiral Thane's voice carried a dangerous edge. You walked on the ceiling. In vacuum. The ceiling was not equipped with magnetic boots interfaces. Artificial gravity was offline, and there was no atmosphere to provide pressure for adhesion. Right. All of that is true. So, how did you do it? Webb reached into one of the shopping bags and pulled out what appeared to be a small, ornate hammer. Trade secret. Literally. I traded it from one of the prisoners. They call it a irreality adjustment. Turns out the hegemony has been using them for centuries to make their impossible technology work. I stared at the hammer. You are telling me you used an alien tool to modify local physics? Not exactly. I used an alien tool to convince local physics that walking on the ceiling was perfectly reasonable under the circumstances. Webb set the hammer on the table where it immediately began to hum soft. The funny thing is, once you start walking on the ceiling just sort of goes along with it. Like it doesn't want to be rude. I consulted my tablet, searching for appropriate terminology. That's not how physics works. Sure it is. Physics is just a really polite set of suggestions that most people take way too seriously. Webb gestured around the room. I mean, look at this ship. We are traveling faster than light, communicating across impossible distances, and manipulating matter at the molecular level. The whole universe is basically held together by agreeing to ignore how impossible it all is. Admiral Thane's mandibles were clicking in what I'd learned. Was either deep thought or impending violence. And the hegemony boarding party? Oh, they were very impressed. Apparently, walking on the ceiling in vacuum is considered a master-level intimidation technique in their culture. Webb reached into another bag and pulled out what looked like a small trophy. They presented me with this certificate of impossible achievement and asked if I was accepting apprentices. I examined the certificate, which was indeed written in hegemony script and bore official military seals. This is real, completely authentic. They were so excited to meet someone who understood advanced reality manipulation that they immediately surrendered and asked if they could learn from me. You taught them? Well, I taught them the basics. How to negotiate with stubborn matter, how to convince energy to behave properly, how to make friends with hostile physics. Webb's expression became thoughtful. They are actually quite talented once you get them past the whole laws of physics are absolute mindset. This is insane, I muttered, though I was taking notes as quickly as my tendrils could move. Is it though? Webb stood and walked to the viewing port, where the captured hegemony flagship was visible in all its yellow and blue glory. I mean, look at that ship. 3 hours ago, it was trying to kill us. Now it's painted in Earth Defense Force colors, and the crew is asking if they can apply for citizenship. Because you walked on the ceiling. Because I showed them that the impossible is just another word for creative problem solving. Webb turned back to face us. The real question isn't how I did it. The real question is why more people don't try. Admiral Thane's carapace had settled into a deep, contemplative blue. Captain, are you telling me that humans have been casually violating physics through sheer stubborn determination? Not violating. Negotiating. There's a difference. Webb sat back down and began unpacking more items from his bags. Physics is actually pretty reasonable once you explain what you are trying to accomplish and why it's important. And the fish drawing. Oh, that. Webb laughed. That was just to let you know I'd be back. The fish represents adaptability, going with the flow, finding new ways to navigate impossible currents. I stared at my notes, which were beginning to read like a manual for reality manipulation, written by someone who thought the laws of physics were more like friendly suggestions. Sir, I need to ask, how many humans can do this? Webb's expression became thoughtful. Well, all of us, really. It's just that most humans never realize they can negotiate with physics. They think it's this big, scary, immutable force instead of just another system that needs proper communication with physics. Sure, you just have to speak its language, and physics speaks mathematics, but it also speaks intent, determination, and occasionally creative profanity when you are really stuck. Creative profanity. Oh yes, physics responds very well to being told exactly what you think of its attitude when it's being unnecessarily difficult. Webb grinned. The key is to be specific about what you want and why it's reasonable under the circumstance. Admiral Thane stood slowly, his forearms moving in what I'd learned was either a gesture of deep respect or preparation for combat. Captain Webb, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want a direct answer. Yes, sir. Are humans actually magic? The question hung in the air for a long moment. Webb's expression became serious, thoughtful, as if he was considering how to explain something very important to someone who might not understand. No, sir, he said finally. We are not magic. Magic implies that there are rules we are breaking. We are not breaking any rules. We are just really, really good at reading the fine print. The fine print, the part where physics says these laws apply under normal circumstances, and may not apply during extreme situations involving determined humans, and warranty void if seal is broken by someone who really, really needs this to work. I looked at the evidence again. The impossible footprints, the cheerful fish drawing, the captured enemy flagship, the collection of artisanal crafts made by former enemies who now apparently considered themselves apprentices in advanced reality manipulation. Sir, I said to Admiral Thane, I think I understand now. Oh? The humans aren't violating physics. They are just really, really good at finding the loopholes. Webb's grin returned. Now you are getting it. The universe is basically a really complex legal document, and humans are excellent lawyers. And the ceiling had a clause that said may be used as a flaw during emergencies involving creative problem solving. I just invoked it. Admiral Thane sat back down heavily. Senior Investigator Krix, I want you to write a report on this incident. A complete report. Everything. Yes, sir. What classification should I use? Create a new one. Call it Humans Being Humans, a field guide to creative physics interpretation. And the recommendation? Thane looked at the captured flagship, the cheerful former enemies, the collection of impossible souvenirs, and the human who had apparently convinced the universe to be more flexible through sheer determination and creative profanity. Recommend that all Allied forces receive training in basic reality negotiation techniques, and that we never, ever, let the humans serve on ships with really important ceilings. Webb laughed. Sir, I think that's probably wise, though I should mention, the floor is also pretty cooperative once you get to it. I finished my notes and looked at the final entry. Mission accomplished through advanced reality negotiation, creative physics interpretation, and what appeared to be the universe's natural tendency to be polite to anyone, persistent enough to ask nicely while walking on the ceiling in vacuum. Just another Tuesday, as the humans would say. The real question wasn't how they'd done it. The real question was what they'd teach us next about the art of making the impossible seem perfectly reasonable through proper communication with the fundamental forces of reality. I had a feeling Senior Investigator Krix, Human Incident Division, was going to be very, very busy. 3 hours later, I was proven absolutely correct. Senior Investigator Krix to the emergency briefing room. Priority Alpha, bring your human incident protocols. The announcement echoed through the ship with the kind of urgency that suggested someone had done something spectacularly impossible again. I arrived to find Admiral Thane standing before a holographic display showing what appeared to be a small moon. Except the moon was moving in ways that moons typically didn't, and it was glowing with patterns that looked suspiciously like human writing. "Please tell me," I said carefully, "that Captain Webb is not involved in whatever is happening to that celestial body." "Captain Webb is not involved," Admiral Thane replied. I felt a brief moment of relief. "Sergeant Riley Martinez is involved." The relief evaporated instantly. Oh no. Oh yeah. It appears that while Captain Webb was teaching the hegemony prisoners about reality negotiation, Sergeant Martinez decided to practice on the asteroid mining facility orbiting Kepler 442b. I stared at the display. "Sir, that's not an asteroid mining facility anymore." "No, it's not, according to the reports. It's now a mobile recreational facility that Martinez has somehow convinced to orbit 3 different stars simultaneously, while serving as a diplomatic meeting point for 5 separate alien species." "How?" she asked it nicely. Apparently, the asteroid was tired of just sitting there being mined and wanted to see the galaxy. Thane's carapace was cycling through colors I was beginning to recognize as the visible spectrum of disbelief. "The mining equipment has been converted into what she calls cosmic hospitality services." I consulted my tablet, which was beginning to feel inadequate for recording the sheer scope of human reality manipulation. "Sir, have the other alien species reported any concern about this development?" "Quite the opposite. They are calling it the most innovative diplomatic solution in recorded history. 3 of them have offered to trade their entire star systems for the secret of asteroid persuasion techniques. And Sergeant Martinez is currently hosting an intergalactic peace summit in what used to be the main mining shaft. She's serving something called cosmic nachos and teaching basic reality negotiation to anyone who wants to learn." I made a note to add spontaneous diplomacy through geological manipulation to my growing list of human incident categories. "Sir, how many humans are currently active in our operational area?" Admiral Thane's expression suggested he'd been dreading this question. 37. 37 humans are currently in positions where they might decide to negotiate with local physics. 36, actually. Private Johnson is asleep. Thank the void for small mercies. Don't thank too quickly. He's been sleepwalking through bulkheads for the past week. The engineering team has given up trying to explain it and just make sure the corridors he uses are structurally sound. I sat down heavily in the nearest chair. "Sir, I think we need to establish some kind of monitoring system for human-related reality modifications." "Already done. I have assigned a full tactical team to track what we are calling probability disturbances in real time." Thane activated another display showing a 3-dimensional map of local space. The red dots represent confirmed human-induced physics negotiations. The yellow dots are suspected incidents. The Cooper dots are situations that are so impossible we are not entirely sure they are real. The display looked like someone had scattered rainbow confetti across the star map. "Sir, there are a lot of purple dots. 73 and counting. Most of them seem to involve humans convincing various forms of matter and energy to behave in ways that make our physicists cry. Have we considered asking the humans to limit their reality negotiations?" "We tried that. Captain Webb said it would be like asking us to limit our breathing. Apparently, reality negotiation is just how humans interact with the universe on a fundamental level." I studied the tactical display, watching as new dots appeared in real time. "Sir, what's happening at coordinates 77 Alpha?" Corporal Lisa Park is apparently teaching a neutron star how to dance. The gravitational waves are creating what she calls cosmic music that can be heard across 17 light-years. And the star is enjoying. According to the reports, it's the happiest neutron star in the galaxy. It's been sending thank you messages in gravitational wave patterns. Our astrophysics team is calling it the discovery of the century. A new alarm chimed, and another purple dot appeared on the display. What now? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Lieutenant Jake Torres has convinced a black hole to temporarily reverse its rotation. He says it was homesick and wanted to see where it came from. A homesick black hole. Yes, it's currently unwinding several million years of accumulated matter and energy. The local space-time is showing patterns that our temporal mechanics team describes as nostalgic. I stood up and walked to the observation window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were having polite conversations with fundamental forces of nature, teaching asteroids to travel, and helping neutron stars discover their artistic sides. It was either the most beautiful thing in the universe, or the most terrifying. Sir, I said finally, I think we need to revise our understanding of what humans actually are. How so? They are not just good at reading the fine print in the laws of physics. They are actively rewriting the universe's terms of service. Admiral Thane joined me at the window, and they are doing it through the power of polite conversation and creative problem-solving. Yes, sir, and the universe seems to like it. The universe seems to like them. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the stars. In the distance, I could see the yellow and blue stripes of the captured Hegemony flagship, now serving as a mobile craft center and cultural exchange facility. Senior Investigator Krix. Admiral Thane said finally, I want you to prepare a comprehensive report on human capabilities for the Galactic Council. What should I recommend? That we stop trying to understand how humans do what they do, and start learning from them instead. And if the Council asks for specific tactical applications, tell them that humans have weaponized friendship, diplomacy, and creative thinking to the point where the universe itself has become their ally. I nodded, making notes. And the classification level. Ultra classified. We don't want other species getting ideas about negotiating with black holes until we understand the full implications. Understood, sir. Another alarm chimed. 3 more purple dots appeared on the display. Sir, the communications officer's voice crackled through the intercom. We are receiving reports from the outer rim. Private Emma Foster has apparently convinced a pulsar to change its frequency to play Earth music. The Andromeda Federation is requesting the sheet music. I looked at Admiral Thane. Sir, I think we are going to need a bigger incident classification system. I think we are going to need a bigger universe. The stars outside seemed to twinkle with what might have been amusement. Somewhere in the distance, a neutron star was learning to dance, an asteroid was hosting a peace summit, and a black hole was experiencing nostalgia for the first time in its existence. Just another Tuesday in the Human Incident Division. The real question wasn't what impossible thing they'd do next. The real question was whether the rest of the universe was ready for humans to teach it how to be impossible too. Based on the evidence, I had a feeling the answer was going to be very, very interesting.